So as I've scaled my business to over $2 million in revenue, I've had a lot of time to reflect on what I think it takes to be an entrepreneur. And to me, there's 10 different skills that I think every entrepreneur needs to have if they're going to be successful. I'm gonna break them all down for you in this video and show you how I've tried to cultivate them into my own practices as a business owner in order to help me succeed as a $2 million agency. First of all, I would say the most clear and abundant skill that I've seen harnessed within entrepreneurs that do over $1 million or $2 million per year in revenue is focus. Focusing is by far and away the most important, mainly because if you lack the ability to focus, you're never going to be able to fully understand what the top priorities are in your life. And at the end of the day, that's really what focus is all about. It's about prioritizing what's important and getting rid of the things that are not important. And if you have those things in order, then you're gonna be able to focus. I would say for my life, the thing that's allowed me to focus the most is on software. I think by building software and by not focusing as much on services, it has helped me regain what I think is the core competency of what I can bring to the table as an entrepreneur. Now, the second skill or trait that I think most entrepreneurs need to have, most agency owners need to have, is being creative. But more important than even just being creative, it's the ability to spot opportunities in the market. And so what I mean by this is when I was first starting my agency, honestly, I'll admit it, I was a bit of a copycat. I would just copy other business models that I saw be successful, and I wasn't really as focused on innovation. Now, there was a reason for this. Mainly when I was getting to $1 million to $2 million per year in revenue, I wanted to build something that I knew worked because that would be a fast way for me to make cash to then be able to have enough time and flexibility to do whatever I wanted. And that's where I'm at now, is the ability to just do whatever I want and build whatever I want. And that's the first key, right? So if you're gonna spot and identify an opportunity in the market, you do it by understanding what's called arbitrage. And Alex Hormozi, I know a lot of you guys know who he is. He's gone viral recently in the last 6 months, but I've read his book, $100 Million Offers. It's one of the best books I've ever read. And he talks a lot about this, arbitrage. And the idea that being creative as a business owner means identifying creative opportunities to find advantages in the marketplace where your business can outperform other companies, right? So arbitrage is very important. And it means finding solutions that you could provide the market for more cost-effective prices and finding inefficiencies in the market that you can take advantage of, right? So being creative, that's the second trait, and finding opportunities that are outside the box and innovative. The third trait that I would say is vastly undervalued by most people is the ability to actually lead a team. Now, most entrepreneurs are maniacs. I've met a lot of people who are just unhinged and crazy. You don't want to be like that. You don't want to be like Steve Jobs. I know everyone here is trying to be like Steve Jobs. Don't be like Steve Jobs. He was a jerk. Honestly, a lot of the top billionaires are jerks. And the thing I will say about this trait is it's more of an aspirational quality I think people should have, as opposed to something that all people who are in power share, because frankly, a lot of people in power might just be egotistical. They might not be the best leaders, but they got there anyways. In my opinion, the best people to lead are people who don't always put themselves first. They put the team first. And there's a really good book called Good to Great that talks about this. It's by Jim Collins. And he discusses how people who are team players, who put the team on their backs, and they summarize their success as being that of the team's involvement and not necessarily theirs. That is what is the mark of a good leader. And leading teams requires thinking from a team focus and not as an individual. And I would say that's the third most important thing, because if you can't lead teams, it's gonna be really unlikely you're gonna actually scale any kind of business to great heights. So that's definitely number 3. Now, the fourth thing I would say is extremely important is having a competency with numbers. I know this sounds kind of ridiculous because obviously every business is run based on numbers. So you obviously have to have a good understanding of numbers to be a business owner to begin with, but you have to have a phenomenal understanding of numbers and finance. When you talk to someone who's actually doing like $5-10 million per year, they didn't get there by accident. They did it because they really understood economics and they understood financial theory. And I've had a lot of conversation with multimillionaires. I have had conversations with people worth over $100 million. Not yet somebody worth over $1 billion, maybe that's coming. But the one thing they all have in common is that they are very, very, very good at understanding economic theory. Not necessarily in the sense of, I would call it like street smarts economic theory. It's not like they all went to economic school or took economics classes. It's just they understand the underpinnings of how the market works, and because of that, they're very good at what they do. And that leads me into my fifth trait that I think is vital for entrepreneurs, which is perfecting a skill, like just a skill that puts you into a category of your own. And so for me, my technical skill that I think I bring to the table is the ability to know software development and also marketing and community building and things like this. And by perfecting the ability to bring a product to market and also build that product, I have substantially less cost than other people. I'm able to do all of my marketing myself. And my goal really for Agency Go, not for the pre-existing company that already does millions of dollars in revenue, but for Agency Go, this new business that I launched this year, it's to be the only marketer and the only developer until we hit $1 million in revenue. I do that because I want to push myself, right? I want to push myself. And so I've developed this skill to be able to do development because I know it's vital for my success as a business owner. And I think it just will make, I know that if I can do that, I can easily scale a company to 10 million and 20 million, 100 million, and $1 billion, because doing that would be so difficult that the rest would be easy. And that actually leads me into point number 6, which is that the entrepreneurs I've seen be successful are willing to put themselves through things that other people are not willing to put themselves through. What I mean by this is that they're willing to put themselves through the grind, the hustle, you can call it all sorts of things. In reality, it's not necessarily about working hard. It's just about doing things that people are not willing to do. So maybe that's taking creative risks. A lot of times nowadays, creativity actually makes you more money than hard work. That's actually why I changed my sleeping schedule, and that's a little bit of a tangent. I changed my sleeping schedule because I don't actually stick to a regimented schedule. I actually sleep in and I stay up late to work, and I just go based off my energy. Now, I've been actually more creative, not necessarily more productive, but more creative this way. And I want to do that because when I looked at top entrepreneurs, I've noticed that a lot of the best ideas are the ones that just kind of came spontaneously. And so I'm trying to increase the amount of creativity that comes from my noggin every single day. So that's number 6, doing things that other people are unwilling to do. Number 7 is an obsessive compulsive desire to learn. Now, this, I guess again might be obvious, but let me give you some context. So the reason this is number 7 is because most entrepreneurs are not just reading one book or digesting one piece of information. They're absorbing information constantly, and they're doing something very unique. They're not just reading, right? But what they're doing is they're taking the top players or people in every single category they're trying to go after. So let's say they're trying to build a tech company. Look at the top people in the tech space, and they're saying, how did they get to that position, and how can I get there? And then they distill all of the things that they did to get to that point down into a few key fundamental variables, and then they execute on that thing. And that's what sets them apart, is the ability to not just learn and absorb, but actually implement those strategies immediately into their business. Now, trait number 8 also has to do with time, which was, what I mentioned kind of a little earlier, but time and time compression is incredibly important. So what I mean by time compression is, if you take what I just mentioned about studying all the best people in a particular industry, if you look at what they did well and how they got there, the only advantage you can have as an entrepreneur is by compressing the time it took to get to that position. So let's say you found the average among the top 100 people in a certain industry to get to a certain point is 7 years. Let's say to get to $1 million net worth. That's actually the average for businesses. It's usually 7-8 years to get to $1 million in revenue, which is why it's only 4% of companies, that actually do it. Is they focus on that and they say, okay, how can I get there in a quicker time frame? So when I realized that it took 7 years, I was like, okay, how can I get there in 3? And then I looked for the outliers in the data set, and I said, okay, if there's outliers, then how can I compress this time horizon as small as possible to be able to then get to that point as quickly as I could, right? And so that was a huge thing. So time compression, ability to compress time to arrive at the desired outcomes faster, is why number 8, time compression, is the most important thing, one of the most important things. Now, number 9 would be the ability to network with other influential people. Specifically, if you're an entrepreneur and if your goal is to make money, specifically entrepreneurs who are already well off and rich. Now, the way that I've been able to do this is, I've talked about this before on social media, but the way that I've been able to do this is by actually meeting one and befriending one really good multimillionaire first, and then just throwing information at them and knowledge and value. Because the thing is that, for instance, like the top millionaires, billionaires, whatever, they actually need your information because they're looking for up and comers that they can invest money into, time into, and they actually like having your thoughts and experience. Contrary to popular belief, they actually want it because they might be jaded. They might think, I'm out of the game. I haven't done this in a long time. I need actually your thoughts, experience, etc., to make my business more successful. And so they want to connect with you. And once they like you, once they've connected with you, they're going to introduce you to other millionaires. And then that's how you build a network of millionaires. So the top entrepreneurs I've met, they are really, really good at networking. There's nobody out there I've met personally, unless they maybe were like the CTO of some company. There's nobody out there I've seen who's like worth $10 million or more who I've met who is not extremely good at networking. It just doesn't exist because business is a social game. It's a social game. You meet people, you interact with them, you network with them, and that's how you come out ahead. Now, the last and final trait that I would say is the most important is the ability to paint a picture and a story bigger than yourself. What I mean by this is you have to be incredibly good at storytelling if you want to be an amazing entrepreneur. This is something that I have been cultivating for years, trying to tell better stories. I did a lot of directing, film directing when I was younger, and then also would write stories, screenplays. But it wasn't until recently that I actually realized this is actually a skill that I could have and it could give to the marketplace, was the ability to tell stories. And when you look at people like Russell Brunson, who's probably arguably one of the most successful bootstrapped entrepreneurs in existence. I mean, he made it to his businesses on over $300 million in sales, and he did without any financing. He did like 6 years. Crazy successful growth. And everyone here knows ClickFunnels, I would imagine, if you're a marketer. So if you're Russell Brunson, you can tell an incredibly good story. You could say, hey, there's this new thing coming. It's called funnel hacking. And funnels are gonna change the game. They're not websites, they're different. And how are they gonna change it? Well, they're gonna make everyone more money. It's a revolution, it's a movement, etc. This is why, here's a story, right? And that's what he does so well. He can tell stories better than anybody else. And so hopefully all of these traits and skills are ones that you can cultivate within your business even more. And by doing so, I hope that you achieve the outcomes that you desire. And if you ever need anything from me, at all, just go to agencygo.io, check out our stuff, check out our resources. I'm here to help you. Feel free to like and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. I want to help you get to $185,000 per month in sales as quickly as humanly possible. Peace.